higher quality, lower cost. Is that true? Then where was that? Like, how do you think?
That's what we tried for, actually. We designed the program about 5 years ago, and one of our points was to try to make it as cost effective as possible and have as high a quality as possible. And so we focus on a very solid core of courses, and we don't try to be everything to everybody. We try for a nice, solid, good strategic understanding, very basic MBA that will serve the students well for a long time in their career. But we don't try to do all kinds of specialties, and that helps to keep our costs down. We're a state institution, and that means the governor says you will not charge too much, so that's possible. And so we focus on a very solid core of courses, and we don't try to be everything to everybody. We try for a nice, solid, good strategic understanding, very basic MBA that will serve the students well for a long time in their career. But we don't try to do all kinds of specialties, and that helps to keep our costs down. We're a state institution, and that means the governor says you will not charge too much. So that means that our staffing is lower in terms, and so everybody gets to do more. Which is fun in a way, but yeah, that's part of how we do it. But we also try to keep our classes reasonably full, which is why we need the students coming in. But we try not to make them too large. So our classes are 20 to 25 at max, 25 if you're face-to-face, 20 for hybrid. We use online venues as well, so we have some courses online. But that also keeps the costs lower because we're not using the actual physical space, so other classes can run in some of those spaces.
So like the number that I know about our cost is the entire MBA program is $18,000 for international student, right?
Yes,
right.
But I think it's a little, that was when we started, it's a little higher now. But it is for the entire program, which is actually more than a year. It actually goes 16 months. So that entire cost covers 16 months of a program. And the entire program, as long as you come in with your foundations from the core on, that's the whole program.
So it's under 20,000, right?
It's about 20,000 or a little under, depending upon where you're coming from.
Right. So well, like right now, because a lot of people they talking about student loans, and then students they fear about taking higher education, taking master degree, because they're afraid like the cost is so high, but after they graduate, they couldn't find a job. So this is their dilemma. However, for Framingham State University MBA program, so we have lower cost, and then we have really good professors. So that, I think that is the value, right? Am I right?
I think it is completely. The professors are invested in the students. The students recognize the value that they're receiving from the educational institution, and they're coming committed to the program. That collaboration between both the students and the professors, I think, is what gives you the educational enrichment that the higher institutions, the more well-known institutions, I don't want to say higher because I don't know that they are higher.
They're not necessarily.
They're not necessarily.
But they're more known.
They're more well-known. But I think that collaboration effect builds and allows for the education to be much, much more rich, if you will.
Okay, so like our program is focused on how to train students being a middle manager or being a leader. So what is our focus?
I think the focus, from my perspective, is actually to teach them to become that first manager and actually give them the tools and skill sets to go and climb as far up the corporate ladder as they might want to climb. I think some of the strategic courses, the focus in strategy and development of strategy, those can lead you all the way to the CEO spot of an organization. There's absolutely no reason why, if you do not have the right idea and follow some of the principles in some of those classes, that you can't have your own idea, your own company, and be the CEO.
Also, I have the hope.
Oh, absolutely. You have a lot of hope. They're going to be successful.
Oh, thank you. But I have another story which I heard a lot from on the campus, right? I mean, this is the questions I have to ask Mr. Ferris.
What?
So, right. So you know, we all know that you are like one of the staff from Stables.
Yes.
And also like you was one of our alumni before.
Yes.
And then during you studying in the program, and then you helped Stables and McDonald's saved $1.5 million.
Yes.
Is that true?
That is true. It's actually a little bit more than 1.5 million. But
More than $1.5
rounding,
million.
rounding it down is fine. Okay.
Well, you was
Yes.
studying in your MBA program.
Sure.
So,
I'll quickly explain
right.
that. The thing that I'm responsible for at Staples is the hardware that the associates use in our retail stores. So we have roughly 2,000 retail locations around the world. Each store has roughly 50 pieces of electronics that the associates actually use. Different models, different brands, different types in all different phases of their life cycle. So one of the things I learned actually in operations management when I was taking it as a student was the concepts and the power of forecasting. I could determine when equipment was going to start failing at a greater rate. When you're a retail location, you have to pay for someone to go into the stores and provide support to failing equipment. If I could replace that equipment before it started failing at an exponentially higher rate, I wouldn't have to pay for that maintenance service. So
right.
by replacing the equipment in a programmed fashion that I could determine through a forecast, I was able to prevent increases in our maintenance costs that were roughly $1.5 million over a period of a year.
So what was those ideas come from? Like, did that come from while you was taking this MBA program?
Yes, specifically the operations management class. When we started talking about forecasting and describing the different error calculations to determine how good or how poor your forecast might be, I took that back to work and literally assigned that to some of my associates to apply those calculations to say when should we start replacing equipment. Prior to that, we were keeping equipment anywhere between 4 and 7 years. What we ultimately found out was the prime point to start replacing the equipment was at 3 years. So when we started replacing our equipment, we had a much smaller capital cost, and it saved us tremendously on the expense side. So that savings is what led to the 1.5 million in maintenance reductions that we saw over the first year.
So operation management, this subject has really helped you to.
So, and that's actually part of the reason why I actually wanted to come back and teach that, because
right.
there are so many facets of operations management that I actually engage in and perform in my daily job. I can come in and bring those examples to the classroom, and they're real. I mean, there's something that someone can see and touch and can understand.
Oh, so, that was like if we don't take MBA program, we couldn't understand. But if you have experience studying for MBA program, or you have that experience before, you will understand what he's talking. But that is very valuable. Right, very.
One of the last things I'll touch on, you mentioned McDonald's as well. One of the studies that I did during my capstone class was going through and evaluating some local businesses and trying to understand their processes and their design of their processes. And we went in and we interviewed a local McDonald's establishment, actually a small chain, and we came back with a set of recommendations, the group that I was working on. The local chain actually enacted probably 4 or 5 of our 10 recommendations, and out of that they saw roughly a 15% margin increase. They also saw about a 10% increase in their CSAT, their customer satisfaction scores. Industry reports say that for every point in CSAT that a fast food restaurant has, they can increase their revenue about $20,000. So if you look at that 10 points in CSAT improvement, that's $200,000 worth of margin right there. So that's pure benefit margin to the company, and because they enacted those things, they saw a measurable change.
Right, but my professors, I have another question. Like right now, like if we're talking about the Framingham State University MBA program, so a lot of people like they are looking for taking MBA program, right? So if you use several words to explain or to conclude, what is the competitive aspect that we have for Framingham State University? like MBA program?
Balanced
Right.
between
That's it.
theoretical
Yep.
and professional would be one. Engaged, extremely knowledgeable. Those would be probably some of the characteristics that I would describe. Those are the things that I looked at when I was a student.
As a
Right,
student.
from-
Exactly.
And I will say some of that comes from that fact that we have an executive board that's very involved, and that actually ends up in the classroom. So we have corporate executives that are from the area come in, and they sometimes visit classes, they critique, they are engaged, they too are engaged in our program, and they're engaged in helping us plan for the future. And so they are already discussing, well, what is it that an MBA needs to do now that maybe we're not doing? Are there pieces we're missing, and if so, how do we get them in? So they're engaged in helping us plan for the future, and they're also engaged in just being in the classroom, helping the students recognize what's needed in the executive suite.
One of the classes that I took when I was a student was Professor Druffel's IT management class, and the CIO at Framingham State actually sat during the presentations, and 3 of the 4 groups actually made some recommendations as it related to the Blackboard product that the school uses as part of their educational tools. I'm not sure whether we swayed his decision or not, but out of 3 of the 4 groups, they made the recommendation that was ultimately followed by the program. So I can't say we did it, but we matched.
Yeah.
We matched.
At least you matched.
Very nice. But we have like 10 seconds, so I just want to say thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for taking time.
Something new, the Casper Slide Part 2, featuring the Platinum Band, and this time we're gonna get funky.
My Asian persuasion.